Thank you, everybody, for coming. I want to formally welcome my boy Art Brown. How's it going, man?
It's going good, man. I'm excited to finally get a chance to be on your platform. I know the history and I know the impact it's having. I'm just really excited to be here.
Let me tell you guys something. I need you guys to understand how Art and I met and why I call Art my teacher. So I need you guys to understand that Art Art is one of the reasons we have the site. Okay. So this thing is really special to me. But let me explain how we met. So I was playing in a church in Orlando area, and Art actually came to the church, right? So I didn't realize his skill level, because Art said that. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Art, but how it happened was Art saw me playing and was like, "Oh yeah, I want to go around dope
Yeah,
musicians, right?" So Art comes to the church to play, but he's playing bass guitar, right?
yeah,
So I'm not realizing that this dude, like, how dope he is. Like, I kind of knew that he played keys, but I didn't realize it. So one day, I need you guys to understand this, man. Like, one day after church, Art, I think Art was like, "Sean, man, I like how you approached that song, man. Here's a song." And then he started playing a song. And what happened next? I need everybody to understand what happened next. I mean, it just shocked everybody who was around the piano. And at that time, there was no Sean Wilson piano, right? There was nothing. I was like, this dude, man. He was using voicings that my ear could not pick up and understand. And I remember at the time, Art, I don't know if you remember, I asked you what you were doing. And Art at that time explained, I don't remember what he said, but he was like, "Oh, I'm just taking a sharp nine, and all I have to do is, make sure functionally I'm doing it." And I'm like, it blew me away because I didn't know theory. so, so I remember Art was getting frustrated at me, man, because he was like, "Come on, man, Sean, you're supposed to know this stuff." And so, Art, I never told you, man, but that was one of the reasons I really wanted to kind of go hardcore and at least understand what I was doing.
yeah,
But I want to tell you guys, Art is so dope, and since then we played together for years. We even did a wedding together.
yeah.
We played for different functions, but in terms of the levels and in terms of the skills, in terms of the voicings, look, he's somebody that you guys really need to know, really need to check out. If you're watching this on the replay, if you're watching this on YouTube, y'all just wait until you hear him play, because I'm going to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. And then also, he's got some stuff out that I need you guys to check out. And here's the other thing too. When I talk about Art being a learner, um, I need you guys to know something. He actually joined the site. He like
Yeah.
he actually joined the site. He sent me a message and said, "Yo, Sean, I joined the site." And I'm like, "What are you joining for?" He kept saying this to me, that he was going to join. I keep saying, "Why would you join? I should be taking lessons." But this is like, it just kind of shows that impact, Art, that you have in terms of your thought process, in terms of that desire. How I tell everybody they should always be reaching to learn, you know what I'm saying, and develop further. And so, he wants to come on, he wants to see the transcriptions just like everybody else. So I need you guys to understand that he's a learner. So that's how we met, and I think it's really cool, man. So can you well, I think before I even ask you about your history, I was thinking maybe I can ask you to maybe approach a hymn first.
Yeah.
I'm thinking you could just kind of play a hymn for us first, and then I want to go to the background, and then I'm going to go back and maybe kind of go back and forth like that, if
Yeah.
you don't mind. So, would you
Sure.
mind just kind of, what kind of hymn would you like to share?
Yep. I'll play Jesus Loves Me, something simple that we all
Jesus
know.
loves me. Okay, man. Man, that was so dope. Dude, like, where do you get the vocabulary? I think that's the big question we want to ask. You were using so many advanced voicings. I guess the big question for me is, is there a way to outline the process? Because I remember um, art was one of the big inspirations for me, even with a lot of the charts that you guys see on this on the site. Because Art is the one who I actually first got the whole practice schedule with all the. I don't know if you remember, but you had this crazy practice schedule, and it
Yeah,
had the Mixolydian and the Lydian and the this and the that. And I was
yeah,
like, goodness gracious! And that's when I didn't even realize that there were that many scales. Like,
yeah.
have you changed from that? Do you still use that, by the way?
So I haven't used it in a while, to be honest with you, but I still practice. I would say that my practice sessions are a little bit more focused now. So, like for example, this weekend I practiced a little bit, maybe about an hour and a half, and I just did just one thing, you know. So I'll take that schedule and I'll just take one thing from it and just focus on that as opposed to trying to knock out a 3 hour session, 4 hour, and do everything on the list. So I still use it, but I kind of use it a little bit more wisely, if that makes sense.
Yeah, can we just kind of unpack that just a little bit, because you know
Yeah,
that's something I've talked about with everybody, is how they think that practicing more things is going to be more beneficial, when I found, like, kind of like you, where if you actually take one thing, that it can go further. So is there, can you kind of just unpack that a little bit more for everybody listening in terms of what that looks like, you know what I'm saying, how you
yeah,
take
yeah.
that one thing.
So I grew up playing classical music, and you know, in classical music, it was hours of practice. That was just the thing you do, you know. And so when I fell in love with, gospel and jazz and all that stuff, I kind of took the same approach. And when you're young, it works because that's all you spend your time doing. But as you get a little bit older, time is a little more limited. You have a little bit more responsibilities. You have to figure out how to hone that craft in the most impactful and meaning way possible.
Mm.
And what I discovered is that I was actually more effective at not only retaining what I was practicing, but applying and integrating what I was practicing when I practiced less and focused on one thing, as opposed to trying to practice many things for longer periods of time. So I would transcribe a lot of licks, a lot of harmony, stuff like that, do it in all 12 keys, the whole thing that, everybody says you should do. And my practice sessions would be, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours.
Jeez.
But even now, what I find myself doing is just taking an hour, hour and a half tops, because your mind loses focus after a while. There's only so much you can absorb effectively after an hour. And so I just take one thing, and I will do that thing for an hour, whether it just be a harmony, like play it over and over and over again until it's literally muscle memory for me in my mind. And
Wow.
it's second nature to my playing. And so it kind of goes into what you're saying, the harmony and stuff. That's
Hmm.
literally just me playing the same shapes over and over and over and over and over again until I can just know where to go and feel and how to navigate the song, because I know what those shapes feel like and how they're going to sound and what they're going to lead to. Um,
Wow.
so I'm of the mindset that less is pretty much more, especially when it comes to trying to get better. A lot of times, I would find myself practicing for a long period of time, but also practicing things that I knew really, really well. It feels good.
Yeah, it
It,
feels good.
it feels good. It feels good to play those things
Yeah.
you do really well.
Yeah.
Um, but I would take an hour and only play certain songs in the key of B. I'll play those songs in those keys because it would be awful. It'd be torture, so to speak. And so the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. And when you're put in those situations where you need to be able to play in those keys on the spot, you're able to do it.
So let me ask you this, because you hit on something that I think a lot of musicians struggle with in terms of time. And I'm sure you know how it is to be super busy, like where some weeks where you don't have any time, because that's a big thing that musicians will say. I don't have any time. So if I'm working with a really limited amount of time, what would you say would be the best use of their time if they say, I got to get home, I got my kids, and I can only squeeze in maybe 20 to 30 minutes, even though we know technically you should be in that hour. But
Yeah,
one thing I've always said is it depends on the musician. For a musician who is not as advanced, they don't need as
yeah,
much time. Whereas the higher you go, you to see really good gains, I think you have to have little bit more hours. But let's just say this is just the average person, and they needs half an hour
Yeah.
here, half an hour there.
So you said a few things that kind of stood out to me, especially like you have to spend more time to see the gains. I think that's really true. There's something called the law of diminishing returns,
Yeah.
where the higher you go, the return is not as the escalation factor isn't there, and so you need more
Right.
output to get that ROI. And so for me, that's something that I've struggled with a bit. I have a regular job, I'm married, and things like that. And so what I've done is I've kind of had to be honest with myself. So I asked myself the question, because I start every practice session by playing all my scales in on 12 keys: major,
Okay.
minor, harmonic minor, natural, melodic. That was just discipline in me. So I
Got
asked
you.
myself, I said, okay, how much more value will these scales add to my playing? And the answer was really not much. And so I really said, okay, what are the things that I'm weak on? What are the things that I don't do well? What are the things where I'm put in a musical situation that give me a little bit of trepidation and make me uncomfortable? And so I really try to focus on those things. For me, it's not really a race. It's really about the process. It's more about the journey. And so I would say you need to figure out where you are, what's going to give you the biggest ROI. If you're a beginner, it's going to fail. It's going to be getting that dexterity, that technique. If you're advanced, it's going to be, kind of tightening up those areas that are a little bit sloppy. And so I think the main key is to be really, really honest with yourself. Because if you're honest with yourself, you'll figure out really quickly what you need to do and how you need to get there. I spent a couple of years kind of lollygagging a bit, like, oh, I don't need to practice.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Know, but practice is important no matter how advanced you are. My job at certain times of the year is very, very time consuming. I work late
Okay.
hours. What I do is I use listening as a form of practice.
Wow, that's different. I haven't. This is something new that I haven't heard yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll take an artist and I'll really practice active listening. Active listening, I think, is one of the most crucial skills you can have as a musician, being able to hear, being able to identify what you're hearing. And if you're not able to identify it, being able to sit with it and understand what's happening in the music. A lot of times at work, even when I'm in my office, I'll pick a record. Let's say I'll listen to some Bill Evans, right?
Okay.
And I'll only listen to, one or two songs, and I'll really try to listen to what's happening with the voicings, with the harmony, what's happening with what he's
Yeah.
playing, what's happening with the bass player and the drums. And I'll try to really actively say, okay, this is what they're attempting to do. And then if it's something that's really intriguing to me, I'll actually make a note on my phone of this song, this timestamp, and I'll go back and revisit that song when I actually have time to sit at the piano. So
Oh.
I probably have maybe like 4 or 5, 6 years worth of notes from songs that I've listened to, where I'm like, okay, I need to really understand what happened during this song at this timestamp. And it doesn't
Wow.
really mean that I need to actually be able to play it. I just want to understand theoretically what's happening in the music. And so that's one way that I practice without actually being at the instrument. And it's been really helpful
Wow.
for me. Yeah.
Man, I feel like what you just gave us was so valuable. I've never even heard that before. So basically, you can still, even while you're really busy, and still that you
Yep.
can still actually be gaining because of
Yep.
the listening process, but you're using it as
Yeah.
a form of practice. I got a question here. I'm going to read it out loud so that
Hmm.
everybody can hear it. It's from William. He says, "When you hit that wall of diminishing returns in one area, is it wise to just focus on another area completely?"
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's a good question. For me, I think it's important to be balanced, right? So I'm the type of person who's kind of all in. When I want to learn something, I'm deep diving in the thing, and I spend all my time on that one thing. But when you hit that wall, I think it's important to recognize that you should probably take a break. Um,
Mm.
a lot of times we get so focused on the gains that we forget that a part of being a good musician is really having balance in order to recharge, refresh. So you come back to the music with fresh ears, with kind of a fresh mind, with a fresh approach. And so what I do is I give myself grace. So when I feel myself hitting that wall, I'll actually just stop playing for a little bit and just, go listen to other people play. I'll like find live music and listen and kind of recharge my own battery so that when I come back to the instrument, I'm actually coming back reinvigorated, inspired, and ready to kind of discover again. And then I'll go back to that thing where I hit the wall and it won't necessarily feel as annoying or as troublesome. You know, like me, I spent a lot of time trying to practice bebop. And there are some walls that I hit, and I kind of got sick of it, you know. And I was kind of like, I don't really feel like practicing this stuff. I'm not sounding true to the form, and so I said, okay, I'm just going to listen to something else. So I just started listening to. This sounds really weird. I started listening to choral music for like a couple months.
Wow.
I just started listening to, you know, Eric Whitaker, the Aeolians of Oakwood. I was listening to just a lot of choral music just to kind of get my mind and my
Just
ear.
yeah,
Yeah,
just to break it. Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah. And so like a lot of that stuff is really beautiful. And so after like a couple months, you know, I felt in my spirit that I was able to, you know, like, okay, let's go back to what you were trying to do. And it's funny because the wall that I had hit, I had gains almost immediately because I wasn't,
That's
you know,
crazy, man.
it was yeah, it's weird. So knowing yourself, knowing where you're at mentally, I think
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
important. Balance, you know, knowing what, because a lot of times, man, you know, for me, music was like my all in all. Music was, you know,
Right.
it was eat, sleep, practice, shower, repeat.
And repeat.
Yep. And so taking time away is really good. It's really good to recharge, to just do other things, because I think being balanced makes you a way better musician. You hear,
Wow.
you play better,
Wow, man.
you get the audience better.
I was thinking in terms of the wall thing because I'm thinking about that's kind of what happens is I think we overthink and then the more we think, right? You're right. And I think what you're saying, like taking a break, what it does is it forces us to stop thinking, I think is what happens. It forces us to stop. What I mean is directly thinking about what we're doing
Yeah.
and then
So
changing that kind of helps.
and so as much as I'm saying, I've had to learn that for myself today in this day and age, you know,
Wow.
like it's really about being present, having having a degree of being okay with that, with those imperfections.
Wow.
So you make a mistake, you play the wrong note, you're not playing well. So what do we tend to do as humans? We judge that. We say it's bad.
Yeah.
We give it a label, right? We
Yeah.
say we say I'm not good because I
Yeah.
don't play this well.
Uh,
And so what that does is it sets you up already
mm,
to make music less about music and more about
your
you and
own
your
self.
imperfections
Right.
and your self-esteem. And I think it's important to realize that as much as we play this music, whatever it is you play, music doesn't define who you are. It is just an aspect of you. And so
Mm,
once you come to a point where you are looking at how you play from a place of compassion and less about judgment, that's really when practicing becomes an exploration and less of a I have to do this. And so practice,
uh,
yes, we say, okay, we have to do these things. But at the same time, if you're coming at it from the standpoint of, you know, this is about my growth, this is about me
mm.
being the best that I can be, but with compassion and love, you are less likely to hit those walls. Yeah,
Can
yeah,
you just kind of let me know about the album? Tell me about the album cover. I know your mom is on it.
yeah,
Just kind of tell me the story of how this came about, real quick, and then we're gonna kind of conclude.
yeah. So I, since I was young, the first songs I've heard were hymns. You know, growing up in church, gospel music, hymns, all that stuff. And so, you know, around the house, mom was always singing a hymn. And since I was maybe about in my early 20s, people would tell me you need to record some hymns because I'd always find myself doodling at the piano, playing hymns, and people would be like, "Hey, that sounds really good. You should, you know, record that." I'd listen to it to relax, you know, to have dinner. And so I did a virtual church service in 2020,
Mm.
and I played a hymn as a solo piece. And one of the gentlemen on the call, who's a mentor of mine, was like, "Hey, man, you need to really record some of this stuff. And so I've always kind of had like that burden, but I never really acted on it. And so, I worked with a good buddy of mine, and he was like, "Hey man, let's do this." And so over the last 2 years, 2020 to 2022, I basically sat down and just recorded and arranged some of my favorite hymns that have a lot of meaning to me, hymns that have a lot of meaning to my mom. I think COVID had a huge impact on
Okay.
everyone in terms of, mental health to some degree. And so I found myself a lot of times really playing these songs for myself, if that makes sense.
Mm.
And some stuck, I would just
Yeah,
hit
man.
record and I would just play. And whatever
Oh,
came out
wow.
was what came out. I was inspired by Bach and listening to different types of music, jazz, classical, and got
Yeah,
some
to
good
this
stuff.
day, I don't know a lot of people who can approach a hymn in the way art does. It's just very unique, and I don't think I'm not even saying a thing where it's. I feel like it's like a skill level thing where it's better and this person's better. I'm saying in terms of your approach, it's just so unique and different, man, and it's really hard to copy and also very hard to transcribe. That's the reason why I told Art, I said, I need you to press the button because
Yeah,
there's some people you guys don't understand. Like I told you before, like if I know a pianist voicings, that's why I came up with the video that said, you really hear from your own vocabulary because if I recognize the voicings that I use a lot, I can transcribe people like really quick.
yeah,
But there are people, and actually you and Mike Burrell are some of the guys that the voicings you guys use to me are very advanced and people don't
yeah,
understand, like the people that argue about musicians, they don't understand the way I understand because my ear is like, I'm
yeah,
telling y'all, man, like certain people are just at a really really high level, but for me, man, yeah, it's like that, man. So if you guys can check that out, do me a favor, or
yeah.
if you have a question, if that's okay, Art, and
And I'll be
then
happy to come back again if you want to, if you want me to come on again,
I
definitely do
would
that.
I would love that. Maybe we could do one where you actually kind of go through some actual,
Yeah,
some
yep,
I think that would be really beneficial for people
sure.
to actually say, hey, here's some ideas and here's how I would use those ideas. Because
Yep,
the issue and my burden and the reason why I made the site is because a lot of people haven't always had access to that, like
yeah,
you and I had. You had that really good, my father's an organist, so I kind
yeah,
of grew up with that in terms of, being able to have that. But a lot of people, depending on where they're at, don't always have access to the, what I'm saying,
yeah,
how high level musicians are thinking and
yep,
approaching things. So if you would be willing to come back, man, I think that
sure.
would benefit us a lot, man. So
Definitely,
again,
definitely.
man, if you guys don't mind, thank him for this session. I have a lot of comments here.